Welcome to On Cue.
Welcome, welcome. Thank
We're
you
back.
so much for joining us. And we are back after 2 weeks away.
Took a little 2-week break for vaccination recoveries and birthdays.
Weird combination, but people, these are weird times. What can I say?
Yeah. Thanks for hanging with us and thanks for coming back. We're so glad to see everyone.
Absolutely.
Hey, Sandy.
Hi, everyone. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Daniela Crankshaw, and I am the co-founder and artistic director of Center Stage. And this...
I'm Grant. I'm Danny's husband and partner in crime and co-founder of Center Stage Israel.
And we are thrilled to have you with us this week. So good to see you all.
Thanks all for getting back to us. So, how many of you were in the Cub Scouts, or I think they call it Sofim movement here in Israel? I was, and I fondly remember the recognition we got every time we got a badge presentation. There was the first aid badge, the fire badge, the rope badge, and many, many more, each symbolizing what you'd achieved proficiency in that field. You could even sew it onto your uniform if you had the sewing badge. When we first heard Netanyahu talking about badges and tavs, we all got quite excited. There is no badge we would not bend over backwards to acquire in order to be open and let people into our theater. Then he started talking about colors and traffic lights, and we got a little nervous. Before we further confuse those of you who have no idea what we're talking about, it's not that complicated. As long as you don't mind nominating innocent colors to represent levels of morbidity, this color coding is right up your alley. Towns have been clearly allocated colors, not badges, to indicate how well or poorly they are faring. It's a 4 traffic light because, well, this is Israel, and why make things easy? Green is a great color. Yellow is ish. Orange is not good, and red, well, you may not be getting your life back anytime soon. Ach, shame. The trick is to combine your area with your badge color. Now, the magic combination is green and green. According to the latest statistics, most of you already qualify for a green light. Muzzle jab. Yes, if you've had your 2 COVID shots, you qualify. Your reward for doing what you've been told to do: you can now go shopping again, visit museums, attend cultural and sporting events, even fly abroad once they open the airport, that is. So go get green, people.
I like green.
We like green.
Muzzle jab, love it, from Sandy, absolutely.
So what's happening at Center Stage?
All right, let's share this with you quickly so that you can see what is happening. And we hope to go, let me just admit somebody in quickly. Oh, yeah, if you try to get your...
yeah, if you do go onto the government website...
or try and download
the Ramzor app, which is the traffic light app, you may run into some problems. I think they've got 1 server running for the whole country. And don't even bother with the English one.
Yes. Yes. So, guys, we have a date for Endings and Beginning. It will be a combination live and streamed show, a hybrid. This is the new way of things. So save the date, the 21st of March at 7 p.m. at Center Stage. A bunch of exceptionally talented singers are going to celebrate with you in song. So
endings and beginnings.
Endings and beginnings. Let's hope it's truly the ending of this time of our lives and the beginning of the days after. So book your tickets. We have also booked the show Shards, Putting the Pieces Together by Evan Kent. It's a poignant musical story that draws the audience in a remarkable mix of storytelling, song, nostalgia, humor, and insight. And it's going to take place on Wednesdays, March 17th and 24th, and will abide by the green passport rules, what Grant was saying earlier.
Yes.
And you'll also have the option to view it via Zoom if you are in a red zone and can't get out. So don't worry. And as always, we are keeping you involved, entertained, and connected. Now, this is kind of our hopeful March event. We are going to have something every night at Center Stage, please God.
It'll take us some time to put it all into full production, but in the meantime,
yes,
we plan on keeping you busy with pub quizzes, live music evenings, poetry slams, and some stand-up comedy.
So
make Center Stage your venue of choice and enjoy a variety of entertainment. We look forward to seeing you all there with your passports.
Lovely. So now we are going to introduce our very special guest. And we're going to ask Rand to unmute himself
and step forward
to open his camera. Can you do that? The app, which may only be working in the Android world, is so far.
You guys.
Hey, I'm going to hold on.
Thank you for having me.
You are so
We haven't had you
yet.
Are you sure about that?
What don't I know, Rand? Come on.
Oh, a lot.
Oh, no. Hold on, I need to see how I can add spotlight. There we go.
We've had you on our stage. That's enough.
No,
I had the honor of gracing your stage. That is true. That is correct. That is very much true.
Yes, and hopefully you will grace it once more in the future.
Absolutely.
So.
We still have the set. Don't go.
Do you?
Well, yours was the last show that we as we were talking about earlier, the last show just before COVID really hit, and we were all naive and sort of wondering what is going on. And the director was already in the last show in Bidud, in isolation, because she had flown to Germany for the weekend. So this was the beginnings of the ick year, and hopefully this year will be the beginnings of a better year. Amen.
I'll drink to that.
Oh yeah, like that. So Ren, the way we
tell me something first, guys. How have you been doing? I mean, it's been quite a year.
We have been doing, online. Obviously, the theater's been closed for a year with no help from the government, no help from anywhere.
It's a very expensive workshop.
Studio.
Yeah,
studio workshop. Yes,
we've done things, online, and obviously On Cue is one of those. And this is our On Cue number 20, guys.
Yeah.
So that is amazing. Thank you, Sandy, for the applause. We've interviewed some amazing people, and we are still interviewing tonight some amazing people. People are still coming in. I'm loving this. So I'm just adding them in as they come in. So yes, Ran, as we said, we met you when you just returned from New York. Was that right?
That is true. That is, yeah. I think I auditioned for you guys the month that I returned to New York, the same month. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I was totally out of it. I was completely not here.
Well, no, you were in it because, the minute you walked in, I mean, we saw this handsome.
Oh, the charisma. It just flew in the room.
Exactly.
The star quality.
The swagger as you walked in.
My shimmer.
And there's our Don. Yes. So now you've had an interesting life. You were born in Israel, and when you were 1 year, it's almost, we've got some very sort of closely aligned stories here, but not that, but close. So when you were 1 year old, your parents went to
2 years.
2 years old.
Yeah.
So you were already in the terrible twos, and they decided to go and live in San Diego while you were in the terrible twos. And so you went to America and you lived there for a couple of years, not that long, right?
I think we returned before I started first grade. I think it was when I was about 5 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
You had English already from there.
I was bilingual. Yeah. I mean, I had English, but then I kind of forgot it. And my parents were so harsh about it that they used to ask people to record all sorts of cartoons like He-Man and stuff like that. So I could keep watching it and remember my English.
Fantastic.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So yeah, the Cosby Show. I don't know if you're allowed to say the Cosby Show nowadays.
I'll say it. I mean, it's, it doesn't make the whole show into, just because one man behaved. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how was that life in America? Do you remember anything of it?
I remember Disneyland.
Disneyland.
I remember SeaWorld. And that's about it. I have almost no recollection. I mean, if you'll ask me to describe the house we lived in, barely. Bare bones, maybe.
Right. And then, so you came back to Israel, and you were in Bat Yam first, and then when you were 11, you moved to Ramat HaSharon.
12.
12. Okay. Okay. I'm getting it kind of right. You've got
Our investigators of
fact checking.
Absolutely. So you went to school. Now, when did you actually discover your love for acting? Was it sometime at school?
No, not really. I think my passion was I wanted to be a psychologist, a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like on that route. And
we can talk about that. Don't worry.
And then I think when I was living in New York for the first time after I finished the army, my roommate was studying at NYFA, the New York Film Academy in New York. And people she went to school with needed actors for their productions. So that's how I kind of like got into it. Oh. And then I took an acting workshop. And
we're going to talk about that. Don't worry.
Okay.
That whole time in New York, we are going to. So it was late in life. That's really interesting. And
it was.
Yeah.
I never had any plans or aspirations of being an actor. I dipped my feet a little bit in it when I was in Israel, but I would never dare to call myself an actor prior to moving to New York. And it was some. Sorry.
So you were just like the normal kid growing up, going into the army. Serving, the Air Force and serving your time there.
Lovely way of putting it, serving my time.
Yeah. Our son was also in the Air Force, so we understand what, So did you go to New York first before you came back to Israel and to Nissan Nativ? I'm just trying to get the timeline because you went to New York.
I went to New York. I lived there for about a year, and then I came back to starting to study psychology in Israel.
Okay, so but hang on, let's go back to New York for the year there. So that's when you got your love of acting.
Amazing year.
Yeah.
Recommend it to everyone. Yeah.
Did you travel around, or were you just sort of?
No. Why would you when you're living in New York? Why waste a day not being in New York when you are in New York?
What is your favorite part of New York?
It's hard to say because the city is so dynamic. It changes and you change with the city. Stuff that I liked 10 years ago, I'm probably not going to relate today. I'm probably going to be into other stuff. But I guess just the unpredictability of things. You have no idea what's going to happen to you when you wake up in the morning. You have no idea where you're going to find yourself. Who are you going to meet on the way? And
wow.
And yeah.
Okay.
So it's as exciting as they say. I've never been there.
It is. What?
I'm a New York virgin.
We need to take center stage to New York.
Well, we've got plans and we'll talk to you about that too. So don't worry.
And somebody agrees with me. Thank you, Isabel.
Absolutely.
I mean, they say something that I feel is so true. Once you lived in New York, you can't live in anywhere else. And you may not be a New Yorker physically, but you'll always be a New Yorker at heart. And I vouch to that.
Wow. Yeah. So you came back to Israel after that year, and you came specifically to study psychology. You hadn't gone. I'm just trying to get the timeline again. It's sort of
no. I did the psychometry and everything, and oh hey Danny, and I begun studying psychology. I had these aspirations of going into clinical psychology, and that didn't happen.
Well, it kind of did for a while. You see, this is what I'm trying to say, because I know that you did study behavioral science. You did work as on Lifeline. What is we know?
I was volunteering for 7 years at a suicide call center.
Right, which is what in South Africa we used to call Lifeline.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so you did that. That's amazing.
Small anecdote. You know what's the difference between the suicide call center in South Africa and Israel? In Israel, I'm not allowed to let the person commit suicide if he wishes to. And I heard that in South Africa, you have the premise to do that. And you can stay with them on the line while they take the pills or decide to finish their lives.
Wow. I'm surprised. I hadn't heard about that.
I'm supposed, in Israel, you're supposed to call the police and do whatever you can to stop it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the saving of a life is like the most.
Above all else.
Yeah.
But then you went. It's interesting. I don't know about South Africa being in that.
I thought actually, South Africa was probably a little behind in that sort of thinking, but. Anyway,
Interesting to know.
We'll look into it.
Absolutely. Yeah, so if we want to off ourselves, we have to go back to South Africa. Kidding.
We'll keep your numbers on quick dial, just in case.
No, I'm not the guy. Just jump.
Man, where's your compassion?
Hey, I'm a New Yorker, right?
Right.
We have no compassion.
Right.
So, and you served as a paralegal in a big.
I was working at a law firm. We were representing thousands of terror victims, and I did that for 6 years. Yeah, it was a very empowering job. Not so easy, dealing with people with post-trauma, but definitely life-shaping. And, one can only wish to have a job that has an additional meaning aside from the job itself. You feel you're actually doing something.
Yeah, that's amazing. So finally, when did you go to Nisa Nativ School?
I did that somewhere in 2008, while I was doing that job, I believe. Yeah, I did that for a year. And I had an amazing teacher who was very inspirational.
In what way? Tell us more. Tell us about that whole experience with Nisa Nativ.
She was the acting teacher that you wanted. It's very, I found that it's very difficult to find a good acting instructor. A lot of the acting teachers are just failed actors or people who decided they don't want to act anymore. They don't necessarily have what it takes to actually educate and guide someone or have the creativity. And she was of that material, and it was very inspiring. And it was what you expect an acting instructor to be.
Amazing.
And she passed away actually 5 years ago, I believe. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Wish we could all live forever.
Yeah.
So what about her really inspired you? What about her was so forming for you?
The quirkiness, the craziness, the not binding into traditions. That really allows you to explore, and the knowledge, you really aspire to that kind of sense of creativity and sense of freedom.
Yeah.
In that sense.
So that's what she gave you there.
Wow. Very nice.
Okay, so then so you finished your work with this class action. It was settled, and then you decided you're going to take the acting route a little bit more seriously.
I finished about 5.5 years that were very jarring, and I needed to take a break from everything. I didn't want to jump to another corporate gig. I wanted to decide what I wanted to do with my life. I needed a break. I needed to find myself. I felt that I was completely drained and completely empty. There was nothing inside me. I gave everything I had, and I was like, well, New York was fun. Let's try it again at this stage of my life. But if I'm going to go to New York, let's do something of it. Let's enroll into an acting school. Let's meet cool people. Let's, try to experience something. And on the way, enjoy New York. I mean, acting was supposed to be the side gig to New York to that year. And I think I applied to Strasbourg, which I never thought I'd get in.
Yeah, that's
cool. And I remember the email I got. It was like at 9 p.m. at night. And I was sure they were going to tell me that I got declined. And it was, we're very happy to accept you to our fall semester.
Did you have to audition?
I did not. We did the Skype interview. I had to send a bunch of forms. I had to do several, the TOEFL, I believe, get recommendation letters from people who knew me. And I got accepted. And I think a month and a half, I cleared my apartment in Israel. I found an apartment in New York, closed everything, and just moved. And I was supposed to be there for a year. Liz, my friend who's here, can vouch for that. And I think the first week in New York, I got cast in the fall production as the lead.
Wow.
And that was like a sign for me. It was like, maybe you should not hurry back to Israel. Maybe check the waters here.
Yeah.
And school was amazing. It was literally the best experience I've had in my life, meeting all the people.
I want to ask you about that because you were obviously inspired here by your teacher at Nisa Nativ, and then you went to the Lee Strasberg School. How were those two experiences different, and what
Very
did you
different.
gain out of each of them? What's
I don't think you can compare any acting school or acting program to Lee Strasberg in New York, just because it is in New York, and it attracts certain people, certain kind of people. And you really want it. You can't just stumble your way to Strasberg, because a lot of planning has to go into that. You know, you need to move to New York. It's not, you just stumble into that. Whereas you can enroll to Nissan Nativ and do workshops there. So you end up in this community of people who are also, most of them foreigners, far from home. And you establish this sort of community and some sort of a camaraderie. And there's a lot of hope, because you're living in New York, and you go every day to school, and you see on the walls all these famous actors: Marlon Brando, Chris Evans, Angelina Jolie. I could go on and on and on. And all these teachers who actually have history to them, you know, who can tell you that they've met this and that. They taught Alec Baldwin. They've been on Broadway. They've been on that production. They've worked with that person.
right?
So you really feel like you're touching it, and like you're part of something that that not everybody gets to be part of. And I think you should take it and make the most of it. And I don't think everybody does appreciate that experience. And that's why I'm happy I came into that later in life, knowing what it is and treating it that way. Because nobody's going to, it's kind of a conservatory. No one's going to make you do your homework. Nobody's going to make you work in class. It's really up to you. And
so it's interesting that you mentioned that you were sort of older, because I know that, you know, for Grant and I, we were really, really young when we went to university, to drama school. I was 17.
Was that in South Africa or in Israel?
In South Africa. You know, I was 17, Grant was 19. So we were like, I think that it was much too young to go to university.
A lot of it was wasted on the youth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. But, you know, it has to, because you need to take people out of the workforce. That's like the whole scheme. And, you know, I read somewhere about it.
You have to take people out of the workforce?
Yeah, because there'll be a surge in work and unemployment. That's why you're kind of like taking them out of the workforce for 4 years. And never mind. It's for a different conversation.
Okay.
It's for business 101.
Okay, fair enough. But I think that, you know, you're going to pursuing this acting career, which is very demanding emotionally and in every sort of way, physically, to go into it at an older age, not as a 17-year-old, but a 20-something-year-old, I think has a lot of advantages, because you've already, and especially for you, someone who'd been through such an intense period, there was a lot that you took forward with you into that, I'm sure.
I think what I took most, actually, you'll be surprised, but what I took most from my previous period, which I thought not everybody had, was the professionalism. Because I worked in a professional environment, you know, I wasn't taking a week to answer emails. I was answering emails within the hour. And people see that and they want to work with you because of that. They want to invite you to auditions because of that, because you're professional, because you have a website, because you send materials, because you know how to talk to people, because when you're never late. So I think that's mostly what I took from the previous job, which really, really helped me. Because I think a lot of the people who kept wanting to work with me was because they knew I'd be on time, I'd have my lines. At a certain point, everybody is talented, right? Everybody is talented, and you know, you have a pool of people who are right for the role, and you want to work with the person that you're comfortable with. The person you know is going to be on time, is going to know his line, is not going to, you know, take selfies throughout the shoot or just nag everybody and talk and take a moment to himself before you start to the shoot and everything. And then, you know, just be professional and do your lines and everything. It's a job, you know. Everybody wants to go home at the end of the day, right? The grip guy, he wants to go home.
Right. So there's professional is the first thing that comes to mind when I think of Rand. That's from Danny.
Oh, Danny. And Danny is the most professional person I know.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Much love.
So yeah, I agree with you that being professional and especially being sort of and Danny says stop it. No, we shan't, Danny, just bear with us.
And Danny has a new web series that just went up online. So
Mazal tov.
He's in New York right now. Yeah,
that's great. Well, welcome from New York. That's great.
So I want to talk about some of the plays you were involved in.
Really? No, not yet. Not yet. No. There's still a lot to talk about, Ron, before we get into that, into all of that. So what was it like sort of living in New York,
amazing,
sort of second time around and being sort of the hustling actor, foreign guy?
Well, that was a question I wanted to ask. They didn't think you were a foreigner, right? They thought you were American.
That is, I was considered the Israeli guy. Everybody was like, Ron, the Israeli guy. Yeah.
And how did they take to your name
as
well?
How did they say your name?
Oh, Ron, Ryan, Ronald, Ran. I mean, it's, it was always in Starbucks. I always had a surname, Noah. I thought it was easier to spell because they always get your name wrong in Starbucks.
Wow. Okay. So did you find it sort of, it was, I mean, you were studying and at the same time you were also in productions while you were studying?
So I think at the first semester I was flirting with the idea of staying there. And I knew that if I wanted to stay there because I don't have an American citizenship, I needed to get an O1 visa. So my goal was to finish school. Once you finish school, you have an OPT, which allows you to work legally for a year. And then I wanted to apply for the O1 visa. So my goal there was to get as much as publicity, because I didn't have any acting experience or acting resume, was to get as much as experience and as much as publicity as possible so I could apply to the O1, to the artist visa, and actually get it. And that's what I did. I just went on auditions, 5 auditions, every week while I was studying, saying yes to everything. And I actually learned through the process that saying yes is the best thing, because something leads to something. You know, you meet that person recommends you to something else, or you got an article out of that one, or you got a good reel out of that one that's going to get you another job. So those 2 years which I just said yes to everything really opened a lot of doors to me. I did a lot of crappy stuff. Really they opened a lot of doors to me.
That's really good advice. It's actor networking.
Yep.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people who are like, no, that's beneath me. I'm never going to do commercials. I'm never going to do this. But every single job I did led to something, whether it was to somebody who recommended me for my O1 or recommended me for another job or something. Something came out of it.
So then we'll have to ask you to admit something. Did you do any adverts for Forex?
Forex? Is that like illegal gambling on the internet? What is
it? Something, I don't know.
Oh, it was one of those things that went past. Yeah.
But what
I mean, corporate gigs were my bread and butter. I was like the young executive. I was whenever there was an audition for a young executive, I knew I had it. It's in my bag. Yeah.
That's brilliant. Nice. But I love the fact that no matter where you are, I remember studying at university, again, drama at university, that everyone was like, oh yes, I'm not going to go into that sort of, at the time it was the SABC, which was the sort of local television station, the one in South Africa, or, you know, although that kind of commercial work, no, I want to be the artist, you know, and it was very sort of important to like, and it's just weird that it sort of resonates no matter where you are in that world, and how quickly you learn to get over yourself and do the work and be professional.
I mean, I also think once you're a struggling actor, and I didn't know anyone in New York, you don't have the luxury of being an artist. Exactly. You need to pay the bills. You need to do whatever it takes.
100%.
Very well put. Yeah.
So now we can go on to Grant's question that he wanted to ask.
Boys get girl, boy gets girl.
Boy gets girl. Yeah. Yay. And I actually have 2 cast members here, right? Christian and Kat. I can see them.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's amazing. Welcome, guys.
Can you see that? How can you see them? Because I've spotlighted you, so you should be like...
You can see them.
Have I done this right? Sandy always tells me if I've done this right or not. So she'll let me know, because normally maybe I have to, do I have to pin or spotlight, Sandy? Answer me.
Boom, boom, boom.
Sandy's not listening.
Okay.
I don't know if everyone's seeing just, you know, is in the main screen us and Ran, or whether you're seeing us in that sort of block view. That's kind of the important question. So I'm hoping you got it right.
I'm seeing you guys.
Okay.
Just us.
Good. All right. Well, so tell us about
Boy Gets Girl.
Boy Gets Girl.
Yeah.
That was an amazing experience. That was in my second year in Strasbourg. And I think it was the first time working with a professional director. The director was David Perlow, and he had worked with Joe Mantello. Joe Mantello is the Steven Spielberg of Broadway. He was nominated for so many Emmys. He directed Wicked, directed a bunch of other plays. So I was really curious going into that process. I've learned a lot. What I liked about David is a lot of directors, once you work on a play, they just give you the first day, they give you the blocking, and it's up to you to fill the space, to fill the blanks, and that's about it. And with David, it was a completely different process. I think for the first week, we only read the play, just sat on the tables and read the play and analyzed it. And then for the next 2 weeks, we were sitting on chairs across from the other and just delivering the lines. It didn't allow us to move, didn't allow us to do anything. And then slowly, gradually, each rehearsal, he would come to us and say, okay, if you have a small instinct, just do it. And, you know, it would be small stuff, just raising your hand or turning your head or positioning yourself in a different manner on the chair. And that was a different process. But once, after those 2 weeks, when we slowly discovered the characters, you felt a stronger grasp to what you were doing, because you've lived through it. You didn't just get a position, and you weren't just requested to know your lines and just, you know, do whatever. You really discovered it from the bones up,
from the inside out.
And yeah. And I remember, I was freaking out. What I remembered about that production is I think a week before we were supposed to go on, or maybe 2 weeks before we were supposed to go on, he decided to change the whole scenery. And instead of proscenium, doing it in the round. And I was freaking out because, I mean, it's okay in proscenium, people see you know, in front of, but when it's in the round, people see every part of you, every position of you.
Absolutely.
And exactly. And I was freaking out about it. And of course he was right, because the play was so intense and so intimate that you had to have it in the round. The audience had to be inside the play with us to actually feel the intensity of the play.
Very, very interesting.
Nice.
So now I'm going to go on to the next play. And I think at the same time, I guess there's two questions here, because the one is, what is the Brooklyn Repertory Theater and Three Sisters?
Yes.
Yes.
And Liz, the creative mind behind Brooklyn Repertory, is actually here with us.
I love it. Wow. Welcome, Liz.
Yeah. We did a production of Three Sisters. It was Liz's idea. She wanted to do Three Sisters and put a twist on it with the Lenka, Liz says. And the idea was, I mean, if you're gonna do something that's been overdone, put a fresh take on it, right? People do Three Sisters all the time. And the take was, let's have a multiracial cast. And let's have the Three Sisters be one Caucasian, one Asian, and the other one African-American. And they were able to persuade Rattlestick, which is a prestige off-Broadway theater company, to direct and kind of like be the creative behind the play. And it was a really interesting process. It was a 3-week workshop. We were rehearsing every day. And what was most interesting about it, our director, who wisely said that it's always difficult to do Chekhov plays because there's no drama in Chekhov. The drama happens outside of the play. Nothing ever happens on stage. It's about the connections with Chekhov. And in order for us to feel more connected, he concocted a background story that all of us, all the actors in the play, are actually friends in a support group who are coming to put on Three Sisters.
Okay.
So we had 2 characters. And that also justified the fact that they were multiracial, the Three Sisters.
Right.
So we were actually friends who were coming together to put on Three Sisters. And in a basement of a church. That was the scenario.
Interesting.
And you really had all these interconnections because we had our relations within the play, and we had our relations between us, the group members. And it really helped, you know, my relation to somebody in the play was maybe different from my relation to him in our real life.
Right.
So I think it really enhanced the stakes in the play, and it made it much more interesting for us because we were improvising both the reality and both the characters in the play.
Right.
And I'm not a Chekhov guy, but just listening to it over and over, you fall in love with that kind of writing. So that was an amazing experience. And we got to do it at New York Theater Workshops while they were closing Lazarus, the David Bowie play. And David Bowie had just passed away the month before. And I remember in the dressing room, we had all these memorabilia of Bowie stuff that fans had brought in. So that was great. And Ivo van Hove was rehearsing, what was it? The Crucible with Saoirse Ronan and Ben Whishaw just across the street. It was a really crazy period. It was a fun period.
Well, New York, as you said,
Yeah.
you don't know what to expect and who's there. And now, I think it was Liz who actually, I read an article about the Three Sisters, and she said she defined it more as normalizing race. And I love that idea. I think it's something that, you know, there's a lot of talk, especially in the US, you know, about diversity and things like that. And I'm coming from South Africa. We love the whole idea of normalizing race and not really seeing color or religion, but just seeing the person. Because at the end of the day, we are humans, and that's where the connections come in, and it doesn't matter. So Liz, just for your information, I love that quote and what you said about that. So thank you for that.
Liz is good with words.
This is good with words.
Yeah.
I want to move on to the what where. I'm just also aware of the time, so yes. I want to move on to the what where, which was the Beckett adaptation that you did sort of in conjunction with Israel in Holland, if I'm not mistaken.
It was an art installation project done by a teacher at the New School or Pace, I can't remember. She shot it like a 3-piece moving segment of the Beckett play, which was I feel I don't understand that play as with Beckett.
Come on.
And then they brought it and they showcased it in Israel for a few months at the Ein Hod Museum.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So this is this sort of brings me to something that we have a common goal of, because you know this bringing together of America and Israel for Center Stage being the first professional English theater in Israel. One of my goals has always been to translate Israeli work into English and showcase it at the theater, because I felt that a lot of the Anglo audience was missing out on a lot of culture in Israel because of the language barrier. And I was surprised that a lot of plays, Israeli plays, which really sort of like reflect our culture and the Israeli thinking, was not really translated and done in English, not overseas and not here. And I know that you had a project that you were trying to get Israeli work done in New York. So tell me a little bit about that.
Are we talking about Lady of the Castle?
I don't know specifically if I'm talking about that, but I know that you were talking about doing Anat Greenberg, I think it was. And
we got together and we started reading plays, and we felt that there was a huge former Israeli community in New York and in the States that was thirsty for some material from home.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you couldn't find that on Broadway. You couldn't find that on off-Broadway. And we wanted to do that. Unfortunately, with all art-related projects, if you don't have a bulldozer behind you and you don't have a stack of motivation, not a lot comes to fruition. So, I mean, you're busy with struggling and with the hustle and with surviving. So something that is a luxury and a passion project often falls aside.
Hmm. Well, that's a pity because I think it's something very important because I don't feel that in terms of the theater world that Israel really has a voice. That
No, I
is,
agree with you.
that is taken, overseas. And and again, as I said, the Anglo community in Israel is really missing out on a lot of good theater because of the language barrier. So we should talk some more about that and see how we can combine the passions that we both have. Maybe I'm the bulldozerite that you're looking for.
I'm sure you are.
Well, hell, listen, we built a theater.
Yeah, bulldozer. There we go.
I agree. I couldn't agree more.
But I think that's so you've done a lot of never mind just theater work, but you did a lot of TV and film. Is there anything that stands out in particular for you? I mean, it's different skill sets, and so it's
for sure a different world. It's for sure a different world. It's much more technical, and you need a lot more patience. Something that stood, I would have to say the last project I did before I left New York was a series for FX called The Wilderness of Error. It was produced from a book produced by Errol Morris, who is a prominent figure in the States. About a best-selling book. It was based on a best-selling book he wrote about a murder that happened in the 70s, which still nobody really is sure if it was the Mansons or was it the husband who murdered his wife and 2 children. So it was a limited series. The director was Mark Smerling. So he won a Tony, I believe, for The Jinx, the Robert Durst story a few years back. Was nominated for an Oscar as well. It was an experience to work on that kind of a scale of a project. And it also reaffirmed me what I learned in my years in New York, that, everybody's always so intimidated by people who are working in the profession and people who are already established. Right. And from my experience, it was always those people, the established people, the people who already made it, are the ones who are going to root for you, are the ones who are going to help you, and are the ones who are going to be the nicest to you. And it's the little people who are always going to be mean and who are always going to be impatient. And with him, somebody with that caliber, working with him, seeing how graceful he was to the actors, to the grip people, to everybody on set, how gracious he was, how considerate, how he saw us for who we were, even the background. That was very heartwarming because you hear all these stories about diva behavior and all that kind of, and you when you're confronted with it and you see that it is the opposite. They want you to be good at your job.
Of course.
That was really heartwarming.
Yeah, I think that's one thing you learn as an artist as well, is that the better the people around you are, the better you are too, and
for sure.
That's what makes the magic, I think, of theater or film or TV. It's not about the single star, it's about the teamwork.
For sure.
So I'm gonna circle back now. You came back to Israel and you auditioned for us.
Did I?
You did.
I feel I'm still there.
I love it. And we took on a Pulitzer Prize finalist play called Wrapped to Blister Burn. And you were the only man among all these women.
Very brave.
It's usually the opposite, by the way. When you're doing plays, it's mostly a male cast.
Yeah.
So that was very different.
Yeah, we specifically looked for one that had a lot of that tackled women's issues and had a lot of female parts in it and multi-generational, and that answered it beautifully. How was that experience for you?
On a personal level, it was very nice because it was nice to have some sort of a home, somewhere to go to while I was trying to find my footing here in Israel and trying to grasp the reality that embraced me all of a sudden. So that was very nice. And it was kind of like I still had a part of my old life in New York here in Israel, especially because I was doing a play and it was in English. Right. So that was very nice and very heartwarming. The play, it felt like a huge challenge, the amount of text. And it was one of those, the plays that I love the most are the ones that you don't really understand them in the beginning, and through the rehearsal process, you learn them and you adjust them for the audience to understand them better. And that was the process with that play. And it was a really, that's the kind of material that I moved to New York to become an actor for, to work on that kind of material. And it was kind of ironic that I found it in Israel.
Well, I love that you found it.
That was a nice surprise.
I love that you found it in Israel, and hopefully that you find more like that. And hopefully when our theater is open again, please God, you will come back and grace our stage. And I must tell everyone that the play had sold out evenings. Word of mouth got out that this was a great play, and we certainly had some great audience reactions. They loved it. They loved the whole. They loved each member of the cast and the play itself. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the opportunity, Daniela, and for bringing that kind of material to Israel.
I plan on keeping on doing it. So
try and stop
me. So now we get on to the sort of 10 questions section of the interview, because we have all of 10 minutes left as I see it. The hour's just gone by so quickly. So thank you for that.
These questions are based on Bernard Pivot and Marcel Proust questionnaires. So we want as short an answer as possible.
Yeah, just whatever comes to mind, quick and easy. And, it lets us get to know you as a person.
Yeah.
So you ready? Take a deep breath. Here it comes. Here comes the first question. Where's your glass of wine? There.
Bottoms up.
Absolutely.
Rapid fire.
Absolutely. Go for it, God.
What is your idea of perfect happiness?
Self-fulfillment.
One word. I like it.
What is your least favorite word?
Congregation. Mischievous. No, Massachusetts, because I can't pronounce it.
That's
and I once had a voiceover edition when I had to say it 3 times.
Oh dear.
All right. Question 3. Which person do you most admire?
My father.
Oh, I like that. Okay. What is your favorite movie of all times?
They're all my sons. I don't know. Nocturnal Animals.
I've never heard of that. I'm sorry.
You have to. You have to. It's a brilliant movie.
Okay. I'm going to have to watch that now.
On what occasion do you lie?
To protect someone I love.
Very nice.
What natural gift, other than the one that you have, would you like to possess?
Natural gift means?
Singing, dancing, flying.
I'd love to have like musical theater skills. Or maybe memory. I'd like to have a sharp memory.
Oh, okay. But aren't you a singer? Do you sing?
I can carry a tune, but I'm not a singer.
You can carry a tune, okay.
What is your most treasured possession?
My soul.
Wow.
Nothing. I don't attach. My memories. My memories.
Your
memories. My memories.
I like that.
That's good.
That's really nice. Which word or phrase do you most overuse?
It's a curse word.
It's an adult.
This is a family show.
It starts with an F.
No.
It's in French.
Okay.
What do you most value in your friends?
Happiness. They need to be fun.
Yeah.
Sense of humor.
Sense of humor.
Yeah. That's what I most value in him. So there you go. Well, besides, one of the things.
If you don't laugh.
Yes.
There we go. Final question. You're nearly there.
Yeah, take it in more of a drink. You want to fill up your glass before this one? All right, here it goes. If you were to die, God forbid, and come back as a person or a thing, who or what would it be and why?
A specific person or somebody who exists or?
Anything.
It's anything.
Open book.
A bird. I'd love to see the world from above.
Can't you fly a plane and see the world from above?
It's not the same. Not the same. It's like driving on a car and driving in a motorcycle. It's a different experience.
He can answer that.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. There's this program actually on I think it's on Discovery or something where they show you different places from the air, and it's amazing. I love those.
Yeah.
So now we're going to open up for anyone who, first of all, Rand, thank you so much.
Thank you, Rand.
Thank you, guys.
Very fast and very.
It was amazing. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to either put them in the chat or to unmute yourselves and take this opportunity to speak to Rand. You have Bravo Rand from Christian. So thank you, Christian.
Oh, Christian. Christian was amazing in Boy Gets Girl. He stole the show.
Yeah. Is he single?
He should answer that.
He should answer that. All right. Anyone for questions?
Yeah. So we've actually run out of time for the interview, but this always happens when we're having too much fun.
So Liz wants to know.
So we're going to carry on for a bit. If you need to go, we don't mind if you leave. Don't feel bad.
We do, but it's okay.
We know where you live now.
So there's questions coming on. Are you going back to New York City at any stage?
Tomorrow.
If you could.
I don't know. We'll see what life brings.
Tomorrow.
Okay, that was from Liz. She obviously misses you and wants you back. And Linka wants to know, are you moving to London?
No, Alinka. Have you not heard about the Brexit?
What has that got to do with anything?
She'll know. The European citizenship, it's not part. London is not part of the European Union.
Yes, I know. I am a British passport holder, so I'm very well aware of that. Are
you moving to London then?
Not right now.
I'll miss her.
That's nice. Here's another question from us, Kay. Says, how has your transition from America to Israel gone?
Oh, not so good. I think I'm still transitioning. I'm not giving up New York that easily. It's not something I can just give up like that. No. I'm still holding it close to heart. People, when you tell people you just moved to Israel, it's not that I left New York. I don't miss the shopping. I don't miss, the Empire State Building. I miss my life there. I miss the people who were with me, the career that I had there, my coffee shop. So it's not something you can easily transition and forget. It's a life that I'm missing. It's not a city. It's a culture. I'm speaking in a different language. I was used to speaking in a different language for 6 years.
But New York at the moment, I'm sure, is not the same. I mean, especially this past year, is not the same as the New York that you knew. So,
for sure.
I guess you were saying earlier before the interview that you feel lucky that you're here right now, in terms of where we stand with the vaccinations and the pandemic. So you can explain that to people if you want to.
That is, we should be grateful that we have the opportunity that we can get vaccinated, and we don't need to wait for a year and a half before we're scheduled to our first shot. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think the numbers are somewhere around 4.5 million, or like at least of the first shots. But it means they obviously will go for their second shots. So we're getting the numbers in, which is fantastic. Absolutely. You have from Shani. She says, we miss you in Massachusetts, with a big smile. When are you coming to visit?
How's the snow over there?
Yeah, all those people from the States, how are you doing in the cold snap and the snow in the winter?
The snow is amazing. We like the snow.
You love the snow?
Yeah.
I can see everybody now here. Yeah, we don't get, well, we had a weekend of snow in Jerusalem and in the north. So, so from Sandy, your dad's face when you said you admired him the most was beautiful. Thanks for that, Sandy. That's great. And what was your best New York moment from Katerina?
Every moment with you, Kat, was the best moment in New York. Our city bakery dates.
Such a charmer. You see, you did walk in with that charm and that swagger and all of that. So it was true. So guys, we've come to the end of our time. So I want to thank Rand so much. Oh, Ronnie or Ron, whatever they call them.
Or Ryan or Ronald or Robin.
Noah.
Noah.
Thank you so much for your time with us. We've really enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I'm going to say thank you, everyone, for joining us. Those who come regularly, thank you so much for being with us. And we will soon have our hybrid shows. Hopefully, guys, theaters are opening. Hopefully next month. Well, they're already officially being opened, but next month we'll see things happening. So again, hybrid, we'll have live as well as Zoom. So please come visit us. We have missed you.
Yeah.
We have missed you desperately. It's been a hard year. So let's get back as soon as we can with your green passports so that you can come in and enjoy the shows and be with us. And what are you showing me, Gershon? Oh, your green passport. Yay.
Nice one, Gershon.
Can't hear you. You're on mute. No, can't hear you. All right. Well, we're going to see you at center stage. That's kind of, and Sally's showing her green passport. I love it. I love it. So we look forward to seeing you all there. Ran, again, thank you so much for your time, for your talent.
Ran. Thank you guys for having me.
And thank you to the audience for being so spectacular. We'll see you
next. Thank you for showing up.
And till then, have a good night,
Thanks,
good day,
everybody.
wherever you are.
Have a great week.
Take
Cheers.
care.